Mateys, matettes. Well, it has been a little while since the last episode. I haven't quite gotten to getting this thing out weekly just yet, but it's certainly a lot closer together than the one before. Alright, so I'm going to cut to it because I'm trying to get these things down. I've edited and I just cannot get this down below. I think it's going to end up being about 35 minutes. Alright, so today's guest, Nathan Bush from Now 12 High, running his own e-commerce and digital consultancy. He is a guy who, if you've been in Brisbane and you've been around the digital scene, you would be aware of him. He's done a great job of getting himself, I guess, well known in the industry. He's been active, very active, running networking events. He's pretty good at social, and he's been working as the group digital marketing manager for Super Retail Group. Super Retail Group are one of Australia's largest retail chains. They're a multi-billion-dollar organisation with Supercheap Auto, BCF, Raise Outdoors, Rebel Sport, and a variety of others. And we'll get into that as we kind of go through the interview. So, look, I won't bang on anymore. Yeah, this is pretty exciting because this is actually the first video that I'm doing on my new Canon EOS R, which is now my proper professional grade camera. The footage from the interview is still from the past, like probably 18 months ago or so we've still got some quality issues there, we've still got sound issues there, so please just bear with it. I think for what might be a little bit of inconvenience to your eardrums and eyeballs, if you instead tune into the quality of the information being shared and the wisdom from Nathan and the humour involved, then I think you're going to get something out of it. So, alright, let's get on to the intro. Every so often, something in the course of time happens that is so monumental that it creates an entire paradigm shift in the way that we think, create and operate with the world around us. The rules are rewritten. The playing field is changed. It is at this perfect intersection of time, technology and thinking that the brave few seize the tools available to them and the new canvas laid in front of them and create something truly amazing. These are their stories and the stories of other up-and-coming businesses, artists, creators and collaborators. This is the new canvas.
Here we go.
So mate, thanks for joining us today. You're a guy who's been around the block here in Brisbane for a while, and I think been pretty passionate in the digital space, particularly the e-commerce game, of course. But tell us about the early days. What's the backstory, the genesis tale of Nathan? Are you a Queensland guy through and through?
Queensland guy. I grew up in Tweed Heads, so I've always been around the area. When I was finishing school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did pretty well in the last year of school, and just before the HSC results came out, I remember I got a phone call. It was a random phone call, Sunday night, and Dad answered, he put me on, he said, someone wants to speak to you. I'm like, okay. And it was a Vice Chancellor from Southern Cross University, and he said, we know you haven't had your results released to you yet, but just letting you know you've got a scholarship here for whatever you want to do. And at that point, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But he's gone, you need to choose in the next month or the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, right, it dials up the pressure.
Yeah. And I went, well, it all kind of fits with where I want to go. And I said, well, I just got to work out what I want to do. And so I looked through the big book of university courses. Yeah. And I picked law. And I went, well, law's going to be a great career, but it's going to be pretty boring to study. Yeah. So I mixed it with sports science. Yeah. Because I love sport. Yeah. I think I had somewhere in my head that I wanted to be the next Jerry Maguire by mixing the two.
Yeah, show you the money.
That's right, show me the money. So I went away and studied law and sports science dual degree for about a year and a half. Okay. About a year and a half in, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself now, it's a bit of a shock to be thinking about you and law.
Yeah. And so from there I went, well, what do I really want to do? And I was really fascinated by marketing and customers and retail. Having worked retail jobs all through school and the rest, I went and studied marketing at QUT. Okay. Yeah, so, it's quite a departure. I have to say, it took some time for my dad to get his head around that I was going from a law degree to a marketing degree. And the big turning point for me at the end of that degree was doing the internship. That was one of the electives that was on offer.
Yeah.
So I pretty much didn't even email. I actually put letters in a bunch of envelopes
Yeah.
and sent them to every agency in Brisbane in the hope of getting an internship. And these were media agencies, creative agencies, full service agencies. It didn't matter to me at that point. I just wanted an internship.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to land one at OMD.
Awesome.
And they were so good. They were awesome to me. And then from there, it kind of just, I don't think I actually took a proper job interview from there.
Right.
It just it was people who introduce you to people who introduce you to people. So getting that first job wasn't hard because the team at OMD, even though they didn't have a spot for me, we got along really well, and they were able to introduce me to the team at Pacific Magazines.
Right. Yeah.
Where I was selling ad pages for magazines like Women's Day, Marie Claire, all the stuff that I read all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's your sweet spot.
So it was my role to sell that to direct clients. And I was horrible at it. I was atrocious. But it was a great experience because you actually got to meet all the agencies being in a sales role. You got really well connected in the industry. It was a great foot in. Yeah. And so from there, I went over to Deep Squally, and they were a full service agency.
Yeah, from what I understand, they were pretty big in their time.
They were, it was phenomenal. We had about 60 to 70 people in there, creative, media, production, the whole lot.
Did you work with Dan Adler there?
Yeah.
Was he there? Yeah,
he
I
was
did a lot with Dan next Thursday now.
Yeah, he was there at the time.
Yeah, right, okay.
In the early days.
Like, what's the, and it's all right if we kind of bounce around, I mean, I'm a bit of a bounce around conversation sort of guy. So, like, culture, like, what was it about the culture, what makes somewhere a great place to be?
I think the owner, Gino, actually talked a lot about family. Being an Italian background, having family is really important to him.
Yeah.
You know, I can still remember some days, sort of random days, you might win a piece of business and then all of a sudden the foyer would be stripped and there'd just be one big long table set up, decked out with Italian food from start to finish.
Oh my goodness, I love Italian food.
Yeah.
So good.
And it was just, there we go, there's our afternoon, everyone sit around the table.
That's awesome.
And that was it. So he created a really great culture there.
Yeah, and how long were you there?
I was there, so that was 3.5 at Deep Squally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you go after that?
So around 2008,
I
I started getting into social media.
Right.
Just on my own accord.
Okay. What drew you into there? Like, what was, because this is one thing I was really interested in, because I was seeing, when in your career did you kind of start to shift into this social space? Like, what drew you in and how did it unfold?
I started a blog called Another Advertising Wanker.
Excellent.
And just for a bit of fun, just because I was seeing some stuff go on that I didn't agree with, and you know, just challenging the way people were doing things. And I started this blog, and it was supposed to be anonymous until it got picked up by Mumbrella, and so for me that was the point where I went, I think there's something really in this, and at the moment it's pretty limited, and I can get self-published and then find these media outlets, which at the time Umbrella wasn't a huge deal either. It was in its infancy as well. And I can start creating these networks. So back then, Twitter was fantastic for that because there was a really small amount of people on Twitter. And it was mainly advertising media people.
Yeah, right.
So all of a sudden, I was connected to these strategists that were in Sydney, in Melbourne, and all these other agencies. We had this great network going on. And Gino said to me, he's going, Nate, do you think there's something in this social? Do you reckon, you know, there's a bit of a future there? I'm like, bloody oath there is.
Yeah.
And so by that time, he was already talking to someone else about creating a social media agency. So Gino and Matt started up DP Dialogue, and DP Dialogue was one of the first, if not the first, social media agency in Australia.
Oh, right, here in Brisbane?
Here in Brisbane. So at that time, social was taking off, but there wasn't huge investment, right?
Yeah.
So and that's kind of where I carved out my name in digital and social.
Yeah.
And even leading some networking events at that time. I remember we had almost like a breakfast club of people who were into social media back then because it wasn't huge.
Yeah. Were you hosting those, or what was the story there?
Yeah, I was organising Brisbane Digital Breakfasts.
Yeah.
And it was literally just turn up if you're around. It's always on Friday. 7 o'clock. Campo's coffee. Come along.
It's mostly, and just did you do that from a strategic perspective, from a social perspective, from a learning sort of regard?
I don't know. I've got a habit of creating events and creating meetups and all that
Yeah,
sort of
I've
stuff.
noticed a little bit of that.
Without a lot of strategy behind.
That's
For a-
right.
for a
As you can see, like
strategist.
I've got a little bit of that myself.
For a strategist, not knowing, but I think underlying it is always meant to be connected, and I think that, you know, the more you can be connected, that things will just work out for you.
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
know someone who knows someone, it'll
Yep.
work out. So it was literally just because I was interested in it.
Yeah, 100%. So, okay, so you're there, and then what was the next sort of step in the journey?
So then I saw social, and as I said, a lot of people interested in social, not really willing to pay a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
And I went, I need to be part of a bigger digital landscape here, because there's so much more to marketing
Yeah.
than there is just social, right? It's only a small part,
Yeah.
it'll grow,
Yeah.
but I want to be part of the whole journey. So I got called up by BCM. They offered me a job as a digital strategist.
Was that daunting, or did you feel like you were ready for that? Like, where were you at in terms of your comfort level and confidence in your own sort of capabilities?
I think there was probably an element of how much am I bullshitting here?
Am I going to fake it till I
Am I
make
fake
it?
it till I make it? But so I felt that I was bringing something there.
Yeah.
But I also felt that there was a lot that I could learn. We also did things like a weekly newsletter.
Right.
And this weekly newsletter was called What Next? And it was our role to basically collate the best stories in digital and marketing
Yeah.
and publish them into a newsletter that our clients would get every week.
It's really sort of early stages of content marketing, really, isn't it? You know, I think a lot of people are able to kind of curate content and sort of leverage their own personal interests. Like I know, I don't know whether you've ever met Jamie Skiller. He worked at Tats, he was in a UX role. Then he went on to be head of UX down at AFL in Victoria, and then he's had like a big startup thing that's gone through a whole bunch of blockchain sort of fundraising, and he's been on a massive campaign trail, Horizon State. He's due to come on the show, hasn't come on the show yet, so Jamie, you've got to get on the show. But really, really smart guy. And how I end up actually kind of, I suppose, getting inside his brain, and when we kind of became mates, was all the stuff that he was kind of sharing on LinkedIn, because I came with him, and he's sharing this stuff about AR and drones and all this sort of stuff that's quite sort of cutting edge. And at one stage, he was putting out so much content. I don't know how the algorithm worked it, but every time I'd open up LinkedIn, he was at the very top. I said, mate, I called him up. I noticed he started to creep me out, because every time I open LinkedIn, there you are smiling, and I was like, come on.
And it was sponsored content targeted at a brand.
That's it, yeah.
You've got to be a go-to person on something, right?
Yeah.
So for 12 High, I went out with Test and Learn, because it's what I did at SRG, is establish the test and learn capability, and it's all
That's
about
super retail group, just for the people that don't. I mean, for the people like international audience or people that don't know, obviously locals, you know, you've got to have your head in the sand if you don't know who they are. But for the others, like, put some context around that, because we've sort of leapfrogged them a little bit.
So, Super Retail Group are in the top 10 retailers in Australia, over $2 billion turnover per year, about 12,000 team members nationally, and leading the retail category in auto with Supercheap Auto, lifestyle and leisure with BCF, Raise, and now Macpac, and sports category with Rebel Sport.
So Super Retail Group, so you stepped into there, was that the first time you went into a client-side role?
Yeah.
You know, moved into an internal role?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah, and straight into an e-commerce position there?
So, I remember at the end of the BCM days, I was getting a bit older, and I was...
Mate, you make me feel like, because I know that you're a fraction younger than me, so just tread carefully.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The agency life is very much work hard, play hard. There's no hiding that. So, as much as you love what you do, you love the people that you're working with. Some extremely long nights. It's hard to predict what's coming up, especially around pitch times. It's very much great. We'll go out, celebrate, blah 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 blah. And for me at that point, I went, I need a bit more control. And I need a little bit more balance coming into a family life and the rest.
Exactly.
So, and I also, and that control thing wasn't just from a lifestyle perspective. It was I want to own something.
Right.
Because when you're in agency, right, you've got to continually sell yourself. And you don't actually own the end output. The client owns the end output, as it should be. But you're an input to that. Whereas I wanted to be something to have control of something that I can say, I did that. So I went over there as group digital manager in the marketing function, and what became very apparent very early on is that it was mainly focused around e-commerce.
Yeah.
That was a really different role to what I had at BCM. What the group did really well was invest in loyalty programs.
Right.
And so they doubled down in basically having a really great auto club, leisure club, and sports club. They went into that really early to be able to get a big bank of customer data. And also, what was really smart is that they then, for lack of a better term, owned the customer.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of organisations at that point went big in buying Facebook fans or Twitter fans or whatever it was then, and then all of a sudden Facebook changed the rules and went, sorry guys, you have to pay to access them now.
Yeah.
So by actually having that own database of customers, that then allowed them to continue on.
Let's get into 12i now.
Yeah.
What led you to make the decision to do it? How long have you been thinking about it? And how did you kind of do your research into what did you do to kind of plan? And well, I've got too many questions in there. So maybe we should just start with why did you decide to go?
I get the gist. So I think I've always had the plan to have some sort of my own business or agency since Di Pasquale days. Seeing that culture there and seeing that environment and seeing Gino do that, I was like, that's something that really inspires me. And I always had in the back of my head. And I think that's where I've always been focused on creating connections.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't know what it was for, it was like one day, we might commercialize these connections.
Yeah.
But for the time being, they're just great people to know. And so I see a huge gap in the market for people who need strategy, but can't afford the big consultancies, and actually don't want the big consultancies to do strategy, but they need someone who's seen a business grow. And I'd seen e-commerce grow at Super Retail Group from the low single-digit millions into over 100 million by the time I'd left, and I'd seen that path to take. It's not just about the digital front end, right? It's about how it affects your supply chains, how it affects your customer service, how it affects your team, the whole lot. There's a big piece around this. So I felt that I could have offered that to other organisations who are on that growth path.
It's great. And I think, talking about the niche sort of side of things, and I suppose being like a go-to, that you've really cemented yourself into that e-commerce space. It's so interesting and great actually to hear and see the realisation of somebody who's put a lot of attention into just connecting with people and connecting on social levels, connecting on business levels, and then I guess reaping some of the rewards off the back of that. Because that's one thing I suppose I really started to think about more and more maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was going to a lot of different networking events, and I just realised that you might meet someone at one event, and at that point in time there's nothing you can do from a business perspective. And I think some people can fall into the trap of going, I'll just have to pretend I have to go to the bathroom, or like I've got to go check my email or something like that. Like they basically go, can't sell this person, I'm out of there, cut and run. And
it's so obvious, right?
It's terrible. Like I've had somebody, a recruiter, I won't name and shame, but I remember, meeting her at an event, and everything's all jovial. There's a group of 3 of us or whatever, all wearing the same coloured dots, having a bit of a mingle and a couple of drinks. And as soon as I said I worked in recruitment, she was just like, and just like cut and basically abandoned me. I was just like, oh, okay. Whereas I kind of think, well, you can still be friendly with you. Just because you're a competitor, I think you can still have a chat. And you just don't know where you're going to be. Like one, you might change focus altogether and their potential client. Exactly. Or maybe they're going to be like, who knows, they might be a business partner like down the road. You just don't know what's happening.
I've got, it's taken me on so many paths. Like some of them are now partners that I bring in on work as needed, because obviously you can't specialise in everything. So I bring partners in. Some of them are clients now, and some are just really good mates. It's the whole give selflessly. And then what happens after that? So what did you have to kind of do to get yourself ready to make the jump? Like what were the things I suppose that you had to put in place to get underway? So I had to have a financial backing behind me, right? So
jumping from a salary to
jumping from a salary, having 2 young kids, a mortgage to pay. So I made sure I had at least 6 months' salary behind me.
Okay, cool.
So I made sure I had that, and that was a good move, and saved a lot of stress, right?
Yeah.
That was the first bit. It was the then structuring what this looks like with my family. because it was going to be a bit all over the shop. It's not going to be the structure that I had before.
Yeah.
And I think now I work more than what I've ever worked before.
Yeah.
I love it more.
Yeah.
And I love the clients that I'm working with, and I love the relationships we've got and the different problems we're solving.
Yeah.
But I've never worked more hours in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's about setting those boundaries with the family to be able to go, guys, and being there in the moment. So you go, I'm up at, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, do a few hours work.
Yeah.
I'm there with the kids, drop the kids off at daycare.
Yeah.
Do my work during the day or with clients during the day. 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock is family time, no interruptions.
Yeah.
And at 8 o'clock, if I need to get back and do stuff, it's great.
Yeah. That's great. It's interesting talking about that time. I find, with me, I've got a couple of kids as well, 7 and 2, and the wife, and I just find that by the time I get home, or if I work through till 6 or something, which is not uncommon, and then by the time you'd sort of be home and help out a little bit, and then sit down, have some dinner, glass of wine or something, and then maybe an hour with my wife, then it's quite a challenge then to put in extra work. Or if I am working and if I'm kind of like sleepy, then you're kind of sitting there, kind of maybe just staring at the computer screen and going, am I actually achieving something, or am I maybe going to accidentally press go on something I shouldn't? So I've been toying with that idea of getting up early and just knocking out some stuff. So it's good to hear somebody's giving it a go. How long have you been doing that for?
For about 3 months now, kind of found my rhythm.
Yeah.
So the
got your body clock sort of.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. It doesn't get up early.
Always work. I'd say of the 5 mornings that I do it, 4 of them are probably successful. One hits the snooze, and it's usually the.
As long as it's
Monday
that
morning.
ratio, not the other way around.
No, exactly. But it is essential, and I know if I miss it, then I sacrifice something else.
Right.
Because that morning time is usually bite off the big piece.
Yeah.
And it's usually, what's the big thing that you've got to get achieved for the day? 2 hours, get stuck in and get started.
Yeah.
Because then the middle part of the day is usually with clients on client work, and the last part of the day is usually scribble time.
Yeah.
And that's where I try not to be on the computer.
Yeah.
But on notepad, pen, ideas, blog posts, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
Because I find the same as you. You're in a different mindset all the time. If you try and do hardcore, heavy lifting work after 8 o'clock, that's, for me, doesn't work that well.
I know that I've certainly heard Tim Ferriss talk about this a little bit, and I'm pretty sure I've tuned into it from some other people as well, but basically the school of thought that you've only got so much decision-making capability within a day. I know for him, he even has this whole morning routine and ritual, and he kind of adheres to doing the exact same thing every morning, because that's less mental decision that he's got to make in the day. I tinker with it a little bit, but then I find myself going, does it really matter if I brush my hair before I do my teeth? Apparently Obama, he wore the exact same thing every day just because of that reasoning and leaving your mind free to focus on other things. Yeah, it's interesting.
For me, it's probably exercise.
Yeah.
If on the days where I'm not with clients in their offices, I'll get out and exercise at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'll finish
in
my
the
day.
dark.
Oh no, in the afternoon.
Oh, thank God.
I'm horrible. No, I can't.
I see those people exercising in the dark. I'm like, that's just too much for me.
No, I can't do that. No, so I prefer to work in the morning because my brain works better on that.
Yeah.
And then exercise at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, ready to be with the kids as soon as they're home.
That's good.
It works for me. And if I don't get that 4 o'clock in, I'm horrible. So the flow-on effects, and this is what gets me out of bed, is that if I miss that early work period, that 5 to 7, and get some work done there, then my day is fully behind, and what usually goes is my exercise. Yeah. And if I lose my exercise, then it's not good.
Yeah. Do you find that, because I've also heard the concept of a third space, so this the gap between your work and then your home life, and that a lot of people don't have third space nowadays. You kind of flow straight from work into home, which I've got to admit is something I've been doing, particularly since having kids, and is maybe a little bit jarring and chaotic. Do you notice when you have that gap there and you have the exercise piece in, do you feel like you have a better night with the family?
Yeah, absolutely. It's your break point, right?
Yeah.
So it's the time that you just unplug from everything.
Yeah.
And it's just you and on the road, in the backyard, whatever it is, whatever the exercise is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also especially when you work with yourself and you don't have a big team around you. Yeah. It's that connection with the outside world. Yeah. To see what's going on.
Yeah, I've got to admit, anybody that would follow me on social would know, I'd spend a lot of time working at Brew Coffee in the city. It's kind of down underground, it's in this dodgy sort of laneway, and I kind of like it, it's a little bit, a bit of a grungy sort of aesthetic, and I just kind of dig it, and I kind of like being tucked away from the world, but I find by the time I've been down there for 3 or 4 hours, I'm like a meerkat or something. I've got to like pop out and see what's happening on the surface. I've got to get out and I like to get in the river bar or something, like see the city and see a bit of the sunshine. So no, I completely get that. So 12 high, any learnings, unexpected sort of things that you've learned?
Yeah, I think so. I've had to pivot a few times already, which is fantastic.
Yeah, right, okay.
That's interesting. That's already, and I've been open to that because you've got to test the market, right?
Yeah.
So I went out originally with test and learn. It's actually a really hard thing to get people to buy into if they've never done it before.
Right.
And everyone nods along and says yes, yes, yes. We like the idea of it. And when it comes to execution, it's hard to break that barrier between the way we've always done things.
Yeah.
So I feel that that's part of the offering.
Yeah.
It's not the whole offering. And the other crucial pivot point for me is productizing.
Right.
So I went out with the mantra of we activate digital strategy.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is that because I'd seen a lot of strategy done, especially by some big consultancies, and I'd worked with almost all of them at Super Retail Group, were very smart, really smart people, great strategies, and we'd work collaboratively with them. But when it came to execution, they weren't there.
Right.
Because they weren't aligned to the board, they weren't aligned to investment priorities, they weren't aligned, you know what I mean? There's a lot more than just what should you do in this space.
Yeah.
So I went out with the mantra of we activate digital strategy.
Yeah.
And to address that, to say everything that we do, we'll do just enough strategy to get you started.
Yeah.
And that was fine. People really responded to that and thought it was really interesting. But everyone has a different view of what strategy is. Because strategy means so many different things to different people.
Yeah.
So then productizing that into, okay, we do audits.
Yeah.
We do customer journey mapping. We do all these different types of strategy.
Yeah.
Then people go, okay, great.
Yeah.
I think we need to start here.
Yeah. It's almost like people have got to have little nuggets that they can kind of wrap their head around. They can go, okay, the compartmentalise something, like it's a little bit narrower. And then are you doing much marketing? Like do you developing content around some of those different topics, or what's been your kind of marketing strategy so far?
So the marketing strategy has been working with organisations to audit the activity that they've done so far and to work out where they're getting return and where they're not getting return. Put forward new strategies around, hey, what do we think is certainty and where should we spend our money? What do we want to experiment with? To go, we think there's something here, but let's not put the whole house on it. Let's do this. And then working with partners to execute that. I don't have a team that's going to execute that, but I have a bunch of partners depending on what specialisations we need to go into to bring that to life who I trust and know we'll get the results.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm aiming to do with Engaging Here, is just find a great group of people who are individual experts in areas around it, because that way I can go in, I can talk to someone and they say, hey, we've got a project doing this, we've got a project doing that. Yeah, I think it's a really clever way to go. Yeah. So with the amount of hours that you're doing, I mean, your wife's on board with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, she is,
it's a tricky space, right? Like, I mean, it's a very hard area. I sometimes contemplate, like, I wonder, I think, not made but broken, because it's hard, I think, for everybody. If you've got, like, I've got a real vision around what I'm doing, and sometimes I think my wife gets behind it and excited a bit by it. And I think other times she just thinks, right, Brad's lost it, and I don't see how this is all going to come together. I'm an eternal optimist, so this is the thing. Like, I always kind of think, like, fly by the seat of your pants and take risks, and I'd rather like take a risk and crash and burn than not do anything at all. Or sometimes people talk about when you get to the end of your life and you think about your career, like, you have more regrets probably around the things that you didn't have a go at than not doing it. So I'd rather try and I love the current sort of thinking from some people around, essentially there's no fail, like it's just basically that's something you can learn from. So I think that's a healthy way to approach things.
And I think if you've got your principles right, and I've just read Ray Dalio's Principles book, which is fantastic. Okay. I think it's about having personal principles as well. When you're starting things, you'll find ways to make them work. So for me, it was really important that I pay myself a salary each week. So, that's a really simple, basic thing that gives certainty to my home life. And goes, great, we know we've got that going over. And that kind of helps shore that up. Right? Things like, I'll keep weekends free.
Yeah.
And I'll have that 5 to 8 o'clock period at night where it's just family.
Yeah.
It's like, there's certain things you've got to put in place to make it work. And then you can work your butt off outside of that.
Yeah.
It is nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of go, well, where's the next project coming from? Where's the next client coming from?
Yeah.
It can take over your life pretty quickly if you let nerves take hold of it. But it's prioritising the right things to do and keeping perspective of where it sits in your life. Well, I remember when I was leaving Super Retail Group and I was telling people about my decision, I felt that there was 2 responses that I get that told me more about them than it told me about what I was doing.
Right. Yeah.
And they'd either went, wow, good on you, starting your own thing, well done, you'll find a way to make it work, it'll be great.
Yeah.
Clients get a lot of value out of your experience. Oh, cool, thank you.
Yeah.
And then other people who went, you're crazy, you got a great job here, one of the biggest e-commerce in Australia, why would you risk all that?
Yeah.
And it's because they would never come from a place, they would never take that risk. Yeah. But for me, I did exactly the same thing. I looked at it and went, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. The worst that can happen, worst case, it doesn't work out. Yeah. And I have to go get another job.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
You go, well, let's give it a go.
Yeah. I think so as well. So, mate, it's been great chatting. Thanks so much. I think there's like a bunch of nuggets of wisdom in there. I'll put some links in the show notes to some of those different bits and pieces that we touched on. Yeah, it's really just great to hear your story, and I think that I'm all for people having a crack. It's great to hear that it's going well. People want to check out Nathan and his work. What's the best places for them to find you?
My website, 12hi.com.au, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all have 12hi pages where I post the best and the latest in e-commerce.
Best and latest in e-commerce, good stuff. Very good, mate. Thanks for coming in. What did I tell you? Lots and lots of great information from Nathan. If you liked what you heard and you want the full story, including all of the details of Super Retail and going right into some of their nitty-gritties around loyalty marketing and data-driven targeting and other things like that, then I suggest you check out the hour-long episode that I'm going to release soon. So when I tried to sort of think about the core points, I think you could summarize it down to connection. So being connected to your network, being connected to your industry in terms of information, so drinking from the fire hose per se, and being connected in terms of being active in your industry. So doing things like internships that we've talked about before, taking part in different industry bodies, running industry bodies, creating networking events, attending networking events, all of those things, So I guess drinking from the fire hose and then putting that back out. That's, I think, where real thought leadership comes from. So years of industry expertise as well as knowledge gained from constant learning. Nathan's definitely a growth mindset sort of guy. So the second thing that I think is key in his journey and his success were relationships. Like right from the very get-go, developing strong relationships in his internship that led to his role with the joint where he was selling Women's Day and what have you. I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyway, that was quite entertaining. But that led to that role, and then developing the relationships in there and getting to know different people around the advertising industry scene, develop those relationships. And then he started to leverage digital, so social media. So via starting to write a blog and being involved in doing the newsletter at BCM, and then continuing on from there, he's been able to establish himself. And the story with Jamie Skeller is, again, I just think another great example of someone who I think was onto that kind of content marketing and thought leadership way very early on, and he's been really successful. Sometimes it's hard to pull apart, okay, is this person really successful because of the fact that they've done all these different things in terms of personal branding, or does all that personal branding kind of flow off the back of being really successful? Or are they both kind of hand in hand? And I think that's really the answer, is having a bit of that sandwich so you can kind of strategically position yourself at the same time that you're learning. And something I think is worth noting is you can still share information and start that journey of getting to what I think a real thought leader is without actually being a thought leader yet. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of posers out there, a lot of people who are claiming to be thought leaders and experts, and there was the wave of the gurus and the ninjas and all those other people that I think people kind of got pretty over fairly quickly. But you can still read industry information, so you're kind of drinking from the fire hose, you're learning as you go, you're attending events, and then you can share those little tidbits, you know, and that's, I suppose, where I'm at in my journey. I'm definitely not going to say I'm a thought leader in terms of video creation, but I'm on the journey and I want to be connected into the industry. So I guess coming back to that whole thing of networking, for me, something that's actually seems to be working quite well up here on the sunny coast, is that I've joined a number of the Facebook groups, and they've got like, you know, Sunshine Coast Musicians Group and Sunny Coast Community Board, and just by kind of getting on there and commenting on other people's things and putting out some posts with some interesting pictures and, you know, little bits of information, people have kind of really started to interact, and I've had a few inquiries coming through. So I think that that's a really great look. So thanks so much for watching, and please tune in for the next episode. I haven't come up with a catchy, like, phrase for the end. I don't know whether my phrase at the start, hey mates, mateys, matettes, is catchy either, but I'm kind of going for it. I wanted to have something that had a little bit of the Australian in there. I wasn't going to be saying, g'day mate, how you going? Or crikey, or any of those other cliched sort of things. Yeah, so if anybody's got any great ideas, I mean, one thing that I do like the sound of, and it just doesn't make any sense though, is check yourself before you wreck yourself. Or check yourself before you wreck yourself. I need some practice, but some friends who I used to kind of get a little phase of saying that. I don't really even know what it's supposed to mean. But if anybody knows, maybe it's an American saying. I think I picked it up from Limp Bizkit. Don't judge, okay? I did like Limp Bizkit, and I still may occasionally listen to some Limp Bizkit, but if it was a choice between Limp Bizkit and Deftones, I'd be listening to Deftones, just for anybody out there with any kind of decent music taste. Yeah, check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's not quite feeling right, is it? Yeah, because Molly Meldrum, you know, he had Huru from the Guru. Anyway, if you've got any great ideas for that, put some comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. I'd love some feedback actually on whether or not the intro too long. I know it's a pretty long intro. I'm thinking about putting just little notes there where people can hit skip twice if they're impatient and they can kind of plow through it. I think I've kept it there partially because it's something I'm pretty proud of. I put a bucket load of time into producing it because it was one of the first videos I kind of really put some effort into, and I wrote the script sort of thing, and I kind of liked that from the get-go. I mean, I'm obviously hugely biased towards my own work. I'll talk to you soon. I've got maybe 3 more episodes to go, I believe. We've got Travello, we've got Mini Movers, Micah Hagan, somebody else whose name is just escaping me, but yeah, I've got some other people in there, and then I've got some more people lined up. There's probably another 10 or so people, I would say. So, in a real mixed bag. Alright, to wrap up, look, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, even one share, one person.